Ready to go. So welcome to our afternoon session for senior thesis. We're going to start with Miskha today. Miskha's been a great student, even with the chaos and craziness that goes on sometimes right next to her in the classroom. But she's a hard worker, really good thesis. So these are Miskha's words. She says, I would like to thank God, my family and friends for their support, Mr. Wade and Ms. Maymay for helping me with my thesis journey, and especially Ms. Rereen, my advisor, for every sitting or walking thesis session. Her title is, What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger. The education system should support student athletes instead of killing their talent. Let me get my timer set up. I'll tell you when you can start. All right, you can start when ready.
Drips and drips of sweat hit the gym floor before the sun even rises. While most students are still asleep, one student is already pushing their limits, lifting weights and running drills. Several hours later, the same student sits in a classroom, fighting to keep their eyes open, trying to focus through exhaustion. The bell rings. No time for breaks and straight to another 3-hour practice after school. More running, more drills, more pressure, and more expectations. Every mistake matters. Every second counts. Late at night, under the dim lights, the student sits again. This time, surrounded by homework, unfinished project, and materials to study for tomorrow's test. Their bodies exhausted, their minds drained, yet the work carries on. This is the everyday life for many student athletes. They are required to perform at their best, both academically and athletically, without any help. Lose focus for a second, and they get left behind academically. Missed one practice, and they get left behind athletically. Being caught in between the two demanding worlds, they are forced to carry a weight that never seems to lighten. If student athletes are expected to excel both academically and athletically, should they really be left to struggle because of a system? Surely, a more adaptive system should exist. The sports industry has been on the rise recently, whether it is basketball, tennis, volleyball, or paddle. The first Olympic Games were held in 776 BC, where the Greeks later utilized the concept of paideia to help athletes have a balanced lifestyle between education and athletics. As time evolved, people started to implement a holistic education to balance the lives of student athletes. In the present age, technology assists athletes' training methods but has not solved the biased conditions of student athletes. Modern education forced a choice between the two since many countries still lack systems that help student athletes balance their responsibilities. Indonesia has thousands of student athletes in universities and high schools. However, according to the NCAA, less than 2% of these student athletes advance to professional competitions of their sport. Although this data is based on American institutions, the same reality appears worldwide, including Indonesia, where the path to professional career exists but remains challenging. Being a student athlete isn't as easy as it looks. Studies found that student athletes face major challenges, with around 80% of them feeling overwhelmed by their responsibilities. Because of this, many suffer with unemployment after retirement, which shows that athletic access does not always guarantee long-term career success. The solution to achieve a balanced sports school life for student athletes is a differentiated system, which is a teaching method that adapts lessons to the different learning needs of students. The government has established special sports schools for student athletes in Indonesia, but student athletes still struggle to maintain balance and prioritize one over the other. In Indonesia, this issue remains significant. because the education system rarely provides structure that allows student athletes to thrive in both their academics and athletics. Without strong educational preparations, student athletes may experience potential future career instability because education plays a critical role in securing stable employment and future opportunities outside of sport. If this issue is addressed incorrectly, student athletes may abandon their athletic potential or neglect education, harming their future. Therefore, the Indonesian government should implement a differentiated system across all schools for all student athletes to achieve a balanced sports school life for three main reasons. It adapts to the lives of student athletes, demonstrates that the school values the God given talent, and expand future career opportunities. Student athletes face problems in balancing sports and school, which is why a differentiated system adapts to the lives of student athletes. First, a differentiated system provides flexibility to make sure student athletes receive the same amount of education as other students. Balancing sports and school might lead to a high risk of sport or school dropouts, since student athletes manage long hours of training and competition along with their education demands. In today's rapidly advancing technological era, it is easier to incorporate flexible education programs through blended learning as well as personalized support from tutors or counselors. Flexibility approaches, such as academic flexibility in attendance, assessments, deadlines, modified assessments, or online access to materials, have been shown to help student athletes manage their conflicting schedules. Studies show that a differentiated system supports equity by providing student athletes with similar educational opportunities as non student athletes. A normal school schedule might clash with their sports schedule, but a differentiated system's flexibility ensures student athletes receive the same amount of education as other students while being able to fulfill their athletic duties. In addition, a differentiated system strengthens student athletes' soft skills. Student athletes develop soft skills which include teamwork, emotional intelligence, problem solving, flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. Interactions with teammates or coaches and having a larger network of people allow student athletes to develop their soft skills and their ability to work as a team. A differentiated system helps student athletes manage work under pressure to maintain balance, improving their emotional intelligence and their adaptation to changes and demands. This system not only develops soft skills such as teamwork and problem solving, but also enhances their social skills and their time management. The demanding nature of balancing sports and school might lead to psychological stress, burnout, and mental problems. Hence, a differentiated system strengthens student athletes' mental health. Student athletes struggle mostly during poor performances, injuries, competition pressure, team selections in their sports, or in exams and deadlines academically. Struggling to manage these pressures can lead to psychological stress and dropout from sport or education. But a differentiated system prevents these mental problems by providing flexibility and reducing their pressure. Education and sports expectations become more manageable and will reduce burnouts because of this differentiated system. The effectiveness of this differentiated system can be seen in Finland, where blended learning, special schedules, and counselor support have successfully helped student athletes maintain strong academic performance while reducing their stress and mental health risk. The second reason, the implementation of a differentiated system in schools clearly shows that the school values the God-given talent. When schools provide academic flexibility through a differentiated system, they show they value student athletes as whole individuals. As a result, by implementing a differentiated system, schools indicate that it promotes the holistic development of student athletes. Research done in a UK sports-friendly school showed that a differentiated system helps the holistic development, which is academically, athletically, socially, and psychologically. 72 out of 83 student athletes reported positive effects on all aspects of their holistic development, and 67% satisfied with the academic help, resulting in higher grades. The idea of holistic development reflects the idea that each student is uniquely gifted by God. By supporting the balance of both academics and athletics, schools don't limit their talent, but nurture the full potential as well as encourage the growth of student athletes in every aspect. The next point is that by implementing a differentiated system, the school reflects God's grace. To reflect God's grace means to show kindness, acceptance, and care towards everyone, including people who may be different or unaccepted. Student athletes face different challenges, and a differentiated system provides care, motivation, and acceptance, reducing academic and sport pressure. In a Christian education, the implementation of a differentiated system indicates that school respect individual differences, and honoring the differences of student athletes is an expression of His grace. As Psalms 139 verse 14 states, I praise you for I am fearfully and wonderfully made, which proves that God's grace is about care and acceptance for everyone. Therefore, schools reflect God's grace when they value the differences and support the growth of student athletes. The third reason, by implementing a differentiated system, the school acts as faithful stewards for student athletes. A journal from Siregar mentions that tailored instruction schools reflect responsibility and care for student athletes, and a differentiated system prevents students from being ignored. It is an act of Christian ministry because the system honors each child's individuality. Another journal highlights teachers as God's stewards of knowledge, as shown in the parable of talents, where teachers are considered faithful stewards when they facilitate classrooms to nurture, grow, and multiply students' potential and talents. Certainly, teachers can serve as faithful stewards to help student athletes grow only after the systems and policies have changed. Implementing the differentiated system, schools show they honor the God-given talents because they care and nurture the diverse abilities and intelligences of student athletes. Lastly, when a sports school life is balanced properly, a balanced sports school life expands future career opportunities for student athletes. First, a balanced sports school life will result in skill development for the future of student athletes. Gold and Carson mentioned that emotional control, self-esteem, teamwork, and strong work ethics develop through sport and are transferable to a non-sport setting. A balanced sports school system is what is most crucial for developing these skills, which can be applied in future settings. Experiences student athletes receive from academics or athletics is what develops their skills of strategizing, compromising, and on-the-go thinking, which can lead to business success and skills useful in their future workplaces. John Urschel, an NFL player and MIT doctoral student who experienced the benefits of a differentiated system. He was able to achieve both his PhD degree and his talent in the football field, and is now a math professor. Through a balanced sports school life, student athletes are reported to have better commitment to learning, excel academically, and have skills beneficial for their future lives and careers. Beyond skill development, student athletes from a balanced sports school life provides access to broader networking. Team sports like soccer, or even individual sports like track and field, support broader networking opportunities. For high school student athletes, networking opens access to college opportunities and connections with college athletes, alumni, coaches, and sport professionals, which benefits both their academic and athletic future careers. Networking leads student athletes to expand their experiences and have more connections, which are valuable for future career opportunities. And these connections can also open doors to scholarships, recruitment opportunities, jobs, and many more. Ultimately, from all these advantages, a balanced sports school life would lead to lower unemployment rates. A lack of balance between academics and athletics can lead to burnout in 10 to 35% of student athletes. These lead to an increase in school dropouts and a higher risk of unemployment because student athletes fail to complete a degree. While a balanced sports and academic life improves long-term outcome, with research showing that 65% of former student athletes were employed full-time, and 42% are highly engaged in their workplaces, slightly higher than non-student athletes. Former student athlete Amelia Krylov mentioned that sports help her develop leadership, conflict resolution, and goal achievement roles, which are qualities from a balanced sports school life that contributed to her receiving many internship and job offers after graduation. Overall, the balance of sports and academics helps reduce dropouts and unemployment and will expand career opportunities for student athletes. Some might argue that instead of implementing a new system, the government should build a school specifically for student athletes. This may be a valid point because building a specialized school would seem more manageable instead of modifying a great number of schools. Building these specialized schools would seem more efficient. And while this seems reasonable, separate sports schools tend to prioritize athletics over academics. For example, sports-focused schools in Indonesia, such as Sekolah Khusus Olahraga Ragunan, that show how student athletes don't receive a balanced sports school life. Instead, they focus more on sports. 5 hours on training and only 3 hours on academics in a day, and having strict schedules and dorm restrictions. This shows how such schools prioritize athletics over academics, and most graduates only end up pursuing sport careers. While a differentiated system implemented in Germany, tested on around 1,000 student athletes, shows that the system tailors training and education to the athlete's needs and is proven to be very effective. Others may argue that a differentiated system appears unfair to non-student athletes. Yes, it could be argued that it might seem unfair since student athletes appear to receive different treatment and academic advantages. However, a differentiated system is designed not to give unfair advantages or lower academic standards, but to adjust the pathway for student athletes to reach the standards. Since student athletes must balance intensive training, competition, and academics, they have a higher risk of falling behind without support, while non-student athletes focus mainly on academics. Therefore, what seems like special treatment is actually the help from a differentiated system, so everyone would be on the same level academically. Throughout this thesis, we have explored reasons the government should implement a differentiated system for student athletes to achieve a balanced sports school life. Starting with the academic flexibility, which reduces burnout, stress, and sport or school dropout. We then saw the support a differentiated system offers to the holistic development of student athletes by recognizing their God-given talents. Finally, a balanced sports school life equips student athletes with skills, opportunities, and networks for their future. Behind every medal, every early morning practice, and late night studying is a kid carrying two dreams at once, one in the sport they love and one in the classroom. But too many of these student athletes are forced to sacrifice one of their dreams to keep the other. A differentiated system offers understanding. It shows that their efforts are seen and their struggles matter. If Indonesia continues to implement an unbalanced system, student athletes will be crushed under the weight of two worlds and abandon their talents and education in the process. So, what does this mean to ordinary people? While the Indonesian government should take the first steps, teachers, school leaders, and coaches should be more understanding and work together to create a supportive learning environment. We can raise more awareness among school leaders and encourage them to take this issue more seriously, while also being supportive towards our student athlete friends instead of judging or asking them to drop one or the other. Let us be more aware and supportive about building a system where student athletes are able to pursue both their academic goals and their athletic dreams. Because in the end, it's the kind of system worth building. Thank you.
Thank you, Miskha. Very good job. Our panelists today are Mr. Abed and Mr. Joel. Let's go to Mr. Abed first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wade. Good afternoon, Miskha.
Good afternoon, Mr.
I would like to appraise your delivery, physical body, and memory. Yeah, I think you did excellent for all of this part, which is really good. I'm really happy to see a presentation that you rarely see the notes. Yeah, may I see your note? Like, what do you have in your note?
I mean, I put everything.
You have
but
everything,
like,
but you didn't see it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's fine. Which is really good, right? I mean, you did really great. I bet that paper is just backup for you, right? So yeah, really good. And the idea also is good, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of student athletes, even though the percentage is not that big.
Yeah.
But I believe that these students need to be supported. Yeah. However, of course, I have two main issues for your thesis to be implemented in Indonesia. Yeah, you said that uh, Indonesian government should implement a differentiated system across all schools for all students athlete to achieve a balanced sports school life for three main reasons. So why all schools? Why not some? The thing is like it's according to my opinion. Yeah, I mean we really need to go through a deep calculations about the resources, the cost. But if you just think about it, if you suggest that all schools in Indonesia, do you know how many schools in Indonesia?
No, actually, I haven't really researched it.
Yeah, I don't know either, but there are so many schools in Indonesia, right? And do you imagine if they have to add a counselor and a tutor teachers, all of those schools need to add that. Can you imagine how costly that is? So why all? Why not just one or two school per area of per region?
Okay, so thank you, Mr. for the question. So actually, why I want to implement this to all schools is because sometimes not all schools have the same like curriculum. For example, like sekolah negeri or sekolah swasta and like CBCS, they all have different curriculums that they implement in schools. And I feel like student athletes also have the right to choose which education and which academics that they can receive without like having to burden the sports and academics. And also, it might be costly, but I feel like this system is not something that should be implemented directly to all schools, but it can be something like adaptive where it's maybe like one school per city first or something like that.
So your suggestion is also not like right away or immediate, yeah, but it takes time. Okay, yeah, because I agree with you. I mean, they need to be supported, and I doubt that it can be all schools have that kind of thing. Yeah, and then my second question would be about. Well, before I ask the major question, let me ask what you think first about a few things. Yeah, so I know you mentioned about sekolah keterbakatan olahraga, right? There are six in Indonesia.
Yeah, there's six.
What are their curriculum?
Sorry, what?
What curriculum do they use? Do you know?
Okay, so from what I've researched, uh, for the academics, of course, every school follows the curriculum from the government, which is the Curriculum Merdeka Deep Learning. But then for the SKO, uh, since those schools are trained to like build athletes and not really like focus on the academics part, so the academics parts they use that curriculum, but uh, I feel like they don't really teach student athletes like the same academic standards with normal like negeri schools.
Mm. Okay, so you're saying that they're not that deep on their
Academics.
academics, yeah. Okay. Uh, and then can you explain further about this differentiated learning system? Like, for example, if we are going to implement it in a um, public school, let's say. Public school, yeah, because CBCS is easier. But let's say public school, because you just all schools, right? So let's say Seman Satu Padalarang will do this differentiated learning. What would you suggest them to do?
Okay, so thank you for the question, Mister. So before, if this system is not yet implemented in Indonesia, uh, schools like, for example, Seman Satu Padalarang, they can use some methods of this system by like using online classes. Maybe when the student athletes are going out of the city to have a competition or training center for several weeks or months, and in their free time, student athletes can be taught by online classes and following the classes. So those student athletes don't need to catch up even more when they go back from like those trainings, and also from like modified assessments or online assessments, so the student athletes can submit it like as they go along their trainings.
Hmm. Okay. So it's more like asynchronous learning, yeah, when like the students can catch up whenever they have time, like for example during the free time or during their rest day. But isn't that gonna be the same? Like, isn't that gonna be stress the student athlete anyway if you do that? Because when they're supposed to have a break, they need to study anyway.
Yes, actually, it might like appear stress, but we can also like say to these student athletes that instead of them catching up all those assignments and lessons and like test and quiz after they go back, which after they go back from like those training centers, they wouldn't just stop being student athletes. They will still have like trainings and competitions coming after them again and again. And so, uh, we should like quote unquote educate and tell them that instead of them catching up all of them in the end and having even more stress, they can do it like step by step and like while they're like training.
Okay. My second issue about your idea, there is this sentence in your paper that says that differentiated system provides flexibility to make sure that student athletes receive the same amount of education as other students. Do you think that's really like visible? Because like, mm, I mean, are we just talking about the amount of time or the amount of the subjects and the content, or also are we talking about the quality also?
Okay, so thank you for the question, Mister. So what I'm referring here is not really like specifically on the time. So like how much students, non-student athletes receive in school should be the same hours student athletes receive, but more of like the content and the education that they receive should be the same, because most schools in Indonesia for student athletes, they don't really prioritize the education and just give like an easy graduation grade for student athletes. So what like I'm prioritizing here is for student athletes to receive like the same amount of content of education, so they won't be left behind and they can still achieve different careers like instead of sports.
But do you think it's feasible to receive the same amount with the regular students? Because here's the thing, we have experienced it, yeah, in CBCS. Yeah, I think you know the story. I mean, we have some student athletes that are playing for province or even national, and they skip school for 3 months and like, yeah. And then, I mean, CBCS have been trying. We had tried to accommodate them. Yeah, we give longer deadlines. We asked her, what do you think is the apa ya, the possible phase that you can do so you can catch up, because again we don't want to lie to the public, right? I mean, if their, let's say if their mastery to the content is 70%, we cannot give like 90 out of 100 as a grade, right? So of course we want to be honest also with that. So what happened is it's still cannot. I mean, she's quite smart. I mean, she's brilliant gitu. She's not like a student who IQ-nya tinggi gitu. I mean, I can say that her intelligence is quite high gitu from the time that she was here studying. So I just feel like I don't think it's feasible for these students athlete, even though we do differentiate learning for them. I don't think it's going to be feasible for them to receive the same amount of education of other students. What do how do you respond to that?
Okay, so maybe they don't receive like to the equals like with the non-student athlete, but at least like when student athletes catch up on their test or quiz, like teachers accommodate them with like lessons and help them to so they understand those lessons and like the test so they don't just like experience it or go through it themselves, but the teachers still accommodate and help them like with the lessons.
We need to move on
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Joel.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, I'm done. Thank you, Miska. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Miskha. That was great. I would also applaud that you memorized yours very well and you knew your material and you flowed through it very well. So very well done. That was awesome. Okay. So I remember last year you were in my class and all of a sudden there was one class last year and all of a sudden all the female students were like absent. It was like all the basketball team was just gone. Like, where are my girls? Like they're all gone. And so, like, I would also have a similar kind of question. They're gone. They're falling behind. And you kind of alluded to this as a problem. That they have to catch up, and then yet they're falling behind, and yet more and more competitions are on the horizon. They have to prepare for and to train for. So it seems like it's just this continuous perpetual cycle that will just keep going. So how was that for you? Did you catch up? Were you able to catch up and manage it, or like your personal experience?
Okay, so thank you, Mr. for the question. So based on my personal experience, so first of all, the student athletes here in my thesis, I say that these are the students who represent the city or the province. So it means that they have more intensive training than like just normal student athletes. And then for my personal experience, when I like skipped school for around 2 or 3 weeks to represent like Kota Bandung in like last year, it was like kind of stressful to go back to school and having to catch up like a lot of tests actually. And like it was around like February to March, I think, or February. And then in March, it was already like almost like not the final exam, but like the exam, like the week where there are lots of exams. And like I have to like catch up and also do exams in that day. So it was kind of stressful. That's why like I also I feel like most student athletes face this problem too.
Okay, so what we're talking about is only the elite athletes,
Yeah, but not the ones that represent the nation.
not
So
the
like
national level.
Not the national.
Okay, so this argument is kind of built on an argument for the small minority. We're going to change the majority to accommodate the small minority. To me, that's setting up a false dilemma. This or this, or it's kind of it's wrongly prioritizing. Like if you have a vast majority of people and you're going to accommodate the minority, and it's only the elite, like provincial or national students, then I think the solution might actually be the Rangunan case that you cited. The specialized sports schools, if they want to study and if they want to prioritize that, why can't they do that? Can you kind of
Wait,
answer
sorry,
that?
Mister. Can you like? I don't really get the question.
Okay, the Rangunan case study. Why is that wrong? Like there are schools that for these elite students. Why isn't that enough? Why isn't that sufficient?
Okay, so thank you, Mister, for the question. So actually, because like those SMA Ragunan schools, they build student athletes to be professional athletes, And so if these student athletes, in my case, actually already have a clear goal, like where they want to be in the future and what they want to be in the future, then those schools can probably accommodate them. But in my case, some student athletes still aren't sure whether they would like go become a professional sport professional or go to another major. So like, and like what I said in my thesis, like without like strong educations, student athletes may not receive like the education as other students to achieve like another career outside of sports. So if they go to the SMA Ragunan, it would like limit their experiences more. And also from the SMA Ragunan, there's also like strict schedules and dorm restrictions, which I think I don't really agree with that because student athletes will have more limited like networking. They only have like networking opportunities and connections with the student athletes and like the coaches in that area. While like if they go to other schools, they have like a broader networking with like other students outside of school or even students inside school.
Okay. So what percentage of student athletes actually continue on into like university level collegiate athletics and even go into professional athletics? What is the percentage?
So actually, from what I researched, in Indonesia, like there's not yet like a survey or a percentage of like the exact student athletes that advance to professional. But many sources have said, and many journals have said that the path to professional career, of course, is hard. But according to the NCAA, from what I've researched, which is in America, only like 2% of student athletes from universities advance to professional competitions of like their sport.
Okay, and that's 2% from university. So what from high school actually how many percent of students, high school students actually participate in collegiate athletics?
Okay, thank you, Mr. for the question. So, I actually haven't researched like the exact number or percentage of like the high school students going to universities, but from what I've known in Indonesia, there's like something called uh, Popnas and Pomnas, where like student athletes in the SMA and then they go to the university. It's like still a lot actually in Indonesia where because like universities like to give lots of scholarships these days, which attracts student athletes even more to continue like their athletics in the university stage.
Okay. I want to move on to two other questions. One would be the economic implications. Because you're talking about career, and students need career options, and you're not yet sure if you're going to go professional with your athletics or if you're actually going to pursue a career in the business world, in the marketplace. So what if we open up and make a lot of these adjustments so that more students can be onboarded into the athletic channel of things, and yet only 2%, and then 2% of that 2% actually make it into. What is that going to do to our economic productivity with our manpower, our woman power, like our sumber daya manusia? What's going to happen to that across the marketplace?
Wait, so Mr. To clarify, what you're asking is whether like these 2% of student athletes, the economic impact to the country.
Mm-hmm.
So how they would economically benefit the country, or
How would it benefit, or how would it cost the country? Because you're
Oh,
going to
okay.
lose a larger. You're advocating for more people to be into professional athletics.
okay, so like for the benefits, of course, if these athletes actually advance to like professional sports, they can be um, more ready to maybe in the future someday become like the national athlete, and Indonesia's national team can also be better, and it can also of course be with the national team being better, the economics of Indonesia of course would like become like higher. And then for the disadvantages, I think of course there will be lots of money to put out with this system for student athletes, but I feel like it's like an investment for the future and also for like Indonesia.
Okay. You want to stop?
We're actually out of time.
Okay, thank you, Miskha. Thank you, Raj.
Good job, Miskha. Thank you, panelists. We'll do now, we'll meet friends and family, panelists, advisors over here for photos. And then at 1:05 is